Hi everyone, so in this video I'm going to teach you how to make a 3D food truck using paper, but before we can make the actual food truck we need to do a lot of brainstorming to figure out what our food truck actually is. So everybody's going to get a brainstorming sheet that looks like this. It has a front and a back. On the back you'll see the guide or the practice for the actual truck, and on the front you'll see 4 boxes. So to start, first thing what I want you to do is write your name. For this brainstorm sheet, we are just going to be writing or sketching down ideas before we actually start to make our final. So the first thing says, brainstorm your food truck ideas here. Box number 1 says, what could my food truck sell? List items here. So each food truck in real life sells a particular item. Usually it's Italian food, or it's a taco truck, or it could be even a pizza truck. So what I want you to do is jot down or write down or even sketch some ideas of what your food truck could be. Now, your food truck does not have to sell food. So for example, if you wanted your food truck to sell art supplies, that could be a theme that you would use here. So to start, just sketch down some ideas of what your food truck could sell. Once you have a few ideas down, we want to kind of start to pick our favorites. So I want you to circle or underline your top 2 favorites. So my top favorite, number 1, is art supplies, and my second top favorite is tacos. So with these 2 ideas in mind, we want to start brainstorming the names of our truck. So name of my truck, list possible ideas here. So I'm making names for an art supply truck, and I'm making names for a taco truck. Our bottom choices, don't worry about names for that. It's okay to write down any idea in this section because you might want to come back to it later. So looking at the names that you have, you are going to have to pick one of them. So by picking one of them, you are going to pick what your food truck is selling. So for example, if I use Ben's Taco Shack, I'm obviously going to have a taco truck. Okay. If I'm picking the art cart, it's going to be selling art supplies. We obviously won't have an art cart that's selling tacos. So you want to kind of limit and circle some of your favorites' names. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick one. Next it says, what will my logo look like? So what I'm going to do for my 2 circled selections is I'm going to just kind of start sketching an idea of my logo. Now a logo is something that you use in all of your branding. So if you were trying to get people to come to your food truck, you'll show them your logo. Your logo is also on the side of your food truck. So you want to make sure you create a logo that is strong and simple, but also it tells everyone that comes to your food truck what you're actually selling. So we're going to make 2 brainstorming ideas. Now I do have dry erase nearby, so if you want to start sketching on dry erase before you start sketching on your sketch sheet, you can, or you can just sketch your designs right on top of your paper. Now I'll let this part fast forward so you can kind of get an idea. Perfect, so I have most of my sketches in. Now keep in mind you can change your logo or things in your logo whenever you need to. Our last box says, what colors will your truck be? What would you like to make out of Model Magic? Now on top of your truck, I'll give you a small piece of Model Magic to make something that goes on top of the truck. So I want you to kind of scan and think about that right now. So first start with, what colors will your truck be? So over here, I already figured out that my truck will have this rainbow design, and I kind of sketched it here. And then what would I like to add with Model Magic? So since I'm gonna go with my art cart idea, I'll probably make an artist palette for on top, or what I could do is I could make a paintbrush or any art supply because it fits into the theme of my actual cart. So what I want you to do is plan out something that you can make to go on top of your truck and sketch it here. When you're done with your sketch ideas on the front, we want to start moving over to the back of our actual truck. So you will get a large piece of paper that is on a special type of paper that is huge when we do our actual trucks. We cannot do these papers until we sketch our actual designs on the sketch sheet. So when you look at your truck, this one right here is the front. When we cut this out, we're gonna cut it and then glue it together so that these 2 are our sides. This blank middle area here is the roof of the truck, and then these are the back doors. So you want to imagine that this door is folding in, and then this door is also folding in. It's kind of confusing when you do these back doors, but you want to just think about it coming together and closing with two back doors at the back. So to start, what I want you to do is start sketching in your designs of your truck. So what things I want you to think about is what else could you add? Could you add a service window, a sign, shapes on the top, any other signage, doors? Where is your logo going, and what colors will you use? So using pencil first, I want you to start sketching in your designs. If it helps you to turn the truck when you're working so you can figure out what is going where, I would do that. So pencil first. Now, when you're designing your back doors, you want to think about how it will be cut in half, because this one is going to be swinging from the left in and this one's going to be swinging from the right in. So that means you'll have to do half your design on one side and half your design on the other side. Perfect, so I have my sketch just about done. So some of the things that I did add was I added my logo in more than one spot, plus I added a catchphrase on the back, plus I added a menu, and you want to make sure you have your delivery window. I even added doors too, so any extra details that you think that you may want to add to your final, make sure you add them to your sketch first to make sure that you like them. Final detail, I want you just to kind of mark out what colors you're going to have where to make sure that you like it. So you don't have to fully color your truck, but I want you to get ideas in there to make sure that you like it. So my original idea from my sketch is that I was going to have a rainbow design. So I'm just going to kind of put in my colors of the rainbow to make sure I kind of like the idea. So I'll let this part fast forward so you can see what it looks like. Okay, my sketch is mostly done. What I want you to notice is that I mapped out the colors so that before I move to my final, I'll kind of know what my truck looks like. Now is the time where you can change things if you want. So for example, if you don't like where your door is or how your door looks, change it now on the sketch paper. If you don't like what's in your window, change it. If you don't like your menu, change it, okay? If you want to add details to the front, do it on this sketch sheet before we move to the final. Okay, next for our final, everybody is getting one of these food truck templates that is huge, okay? This is your final. I only have enough of these printed for everybody to have one. So if you make mistakes, make sure you're working lightly and can erase it. I do not have enough to give everybody a second one. So you'll notice it's big. You'll notice it's on a thicker piece of paper. At the top, first thing I want you to do is write your name so that we know whose food truck is whose. This part is pretty easy but hard at the same time. What you are going to do, starting with pencil, you're going to start to copy your sketch idea over to your final. The key with this part is to work lightly with pencil. So for example, if I do it lightly, it's really easy to erase, okay? You also have larger erasers in your table caddy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start copying. I'm not gonna worry about color yet. We'll do that in the next part. So I'll let this part fast forward so you can see what it looks like when it's finished. Okay, my sketch is completely done. Few things I want you to notice. Remember, with our doors, they are closing in together. So I did a heart to represent them coming together, and when they're open, the heart will open. You also can add details where the lights are and by the wheels if you'd like. Next, I want to show you adding color. For adding color, we're going to do the same exact thing we did on our sketch, but instead of doing a sketching type of coloring, we're going to color it in fully. Remember, this is your final. You want them bright and bold and colorful. One helpful hint about the markers. When you're using them, you want to let them dry a little bit because this is a shinier paper. So what I would like to do is I like to color in a section and just make sure I don't touch it, because if I do touch it before it's dry, the color will smudge and smear. So just be mindful of that while you're working. I'll let this part fast forward so you can see what it looks like when it's finished. Perfect. So my main color of my food truck is now done. So I need to go back in and add the extra details and the smaller details and my logo details. Few options for this. You can continue using the regular markers. I have skinny markers in the marker wall, but I also have Sharpies with a finer point if you need some of those. So I'm just going to add in the rest of my details, and let's fast forward so you can see what it looks like. Perfect. The last details I need to add in is what is inside of my windows, and then I'm going to look over my whole cart and see if there's anything else I need to add. The one place I forgot to mention is you don't need to add anything where the blue stripes are. That's where we're going to be gluing it. So one last little bit to add all my final details. Perfect, and double check to make sure all of your details are in. Next, we have to cut out our food trucks. Now, it's super important that you follow the outside line of your entire truck, which means you cut on the black line. Do not cut anything off of this truck. So I'm gonna go slow through some of the harder parts. I have bigger scissors and I have small scissors. Small scissors are for cutting the small details. The big scissors are for cutting the long straight edges. You'll notice too how it's okay to cut the edges off. So for example, if I'm cutting along here, I know that this piece is a scrap, just cut it off. Same in here, you can do little cuts. And if you have to pull your scissors out, you can. So to cut this angle, it's easier to come in from this way than to come in from this way. So I'm just gonna cut these scraps off and leave that tab for when I need to glue. Helpful hint too, when you're cutting curves, if you slowly move the paper while slowly closing your scissors, it makes it easier to cut on a curve. So notice how I'm closing the scissors really slowly, but turning with my helper hand. That helps you cut a nice smooth curve. Perfect, so I'm fully cut out. Notice how I cut off all the extras, but I left all of the striped tabs. Your scraps can go into the garbage. Next, we have to fold on some lines so that I will be able to glue these for you. So first we want to fold on all of the striped areas. So see this line where it's striped? What I want you to do is flip it over and fold so just the stripes are showing on the back. Any spot that there's stripes is where you're gonna do that too. So I'm gonna fold right here, get my stripes to the back. Notice how I'm flipping back and forth between the two. I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So those will all get folded back so you can see the stripes. Perfect, so that's all of the striped areas. Next, we need to fold along the 2 lines along the top. So this one right here, this one right here, this will create the sides. So what I like to do is just fold it over and then just slowly press it down. That creates a fold. Do the same thing on the other side. Fold it over, press it down. And then you need to fold the 2 back doors along those lines. So fold the door, look for the black line, fold it over, look for the black line. Next, we need to fold the hood. So the hood is gonna get folded along this top line. I'm gonna fold this one backwards just because I can see the line better. And then we also need to fold along these 2 lines. There's 1, and there's 2. Perfect. Last thing I want you to do is on the inside of your truck, write your name, and it's gonna come to me so that I can hot glue it for you. All right, so my food truck is all glued together. Now this is made out of paper, so you need to be careful if you're too rough with it. Parts may come off or come unglued or break, so you need to be careful. You'll notice that my name is still on the inside, so I know exactly whose this is. So I'm gonna set this to the side for right now. Everybody is gonna get half a piece of Model Magic. And if you remember from your sketch sheet, one of your sketch boxes said, what would you like using Model Magic? So I was gonna do a palette or a paintbrush. You can see my paintbrush is right here, and that's going on top of our food truck. So what you need to do first is you need to make whatever your 3D design was before we stick it on. So I'm making a paintbrush. So just forming the Model Magic, I'm gonna make the paintbrush. What's nice about the Model Magic is using your fingers or a pencil, you can do imprints of texture. So I'm gonna make this look kind of like the bristles of a paintbrush. Now keep in mind with your Model Magic, you will be marker to this to add the color. So really what you're doing is just creating the outline using the Model Magic. I'm gonna also check to make sure that the sizing is okay. So my handle is almost a hair too big, so you can take those pieces off. As one little bit, your Model Magic does need to dry before we glue it to our food truck. So what I want you to do is write your name on a free draw paper and then put your Model Magic on that paper. You can even share with somebody else at your table for the drying part. And then we need to put this on the counter or onto the 3D drying rack so it can dry before next class when we add the color. For our last and final step, we need to add color to our 3D objects that are going on top of our food trucks. So pretty easy with these. Now that the Model Magic is dry, you just have to be careful to make sure that you're not too rough with this, because if you are too rough, pieces may break off of this. If that does happen, just glue them back together. But to add color with the Model Magic, all you're gonna do is just draw on it with marker. So I'll let this part fast forward so you can see it when it's finished. Perfect, so my 3D part is all set, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna glue it to the top of my food truck. Now what you want to do when you put the glue down is you want to make sure you're only putting glue where you need it. So I'm going to kind of line it up and figure out where it goes. So since my brush is kind of bent up at the ends, I don't need to put any glue there. So I'm really going to just put it on the main part, and you don't need a lot of glue, just a few dots should work on those main pieces. And then you're going to put it on there and hold it down for a second, and then we just need to let these fully dry. Once they are fully dry, we're gonna upload them to Art Sonia.